Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll run through the normal openings, and then at the end of the openings, I'll do some work around Rofu. And Rofu is one of the main practices that we use around sleep. And we'll look at it as sort of a, we'll look at it as a complete practice, and then we'll have a chat and we'll look at how we can use it as a practice to aid sleep. Yeah, from a Qigong perspective, really what we talk about is the fact that when we, quite often when we can't sleep, we find that the mind is very busy, or there's a lot going on. So the trick is to find something that quietens the mind. And so that's what the focus always is. It's how can we quieten the mind? But yeah, let's just dive in and do some of the openings, get the bodies moving, and we will take it from there. So I'm going to switch the camera over, and I will mute everybody for this section. Okay, find a bit that you can actually see me. This will do. So the first thing to do is when we stand. We spoke last week, I think, about Uchi, about this idea of just the standing posture. And aware. So body is centered and upright. Lift Bahui, lift the crown, allow the neck to be open, allow the spine to be open. And then we'll change things around a little bit this afternoon. And I'd like to ask you to just forward. But don't look at a thing in point. Look at nothing, maybe a meter or 2 meters ahead. Focus on nothing. Back into the center of the head, and as you do, allow.
John, your mic keeps on going funny on the top of your t-shirt.
Okay, I'll switch mics. So
thank you.
Hopefully this one is going to work okay. You just whip this one off. Okay, so easing back in. And come back to this idea of look at a void point directly in front of you. And then gently draw the vision back into the center of the head. Allow the eyes to be gently closed and notice a clear, bright space in the center of the head. So there's an idea, from this clear, bright space, we can illuminate the rest of the body. And as we do, we can open up space. So first of all, noticing the neck. Illuminate the neck, open up the neck. Create space in the vertebrae. Bring the awareness down into the mid-spine. Illuminate the mid-spine. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Release the shoulder blades apart. Squeeze. And release. Squeeze. And release. Maybe once more. Squeeze. And release. And then this time we'll start to roll the shoulders so they lift up at the front. Release down at the back. And they can follow the breath. So the in-breath, they rise at the front. Out-breath, they release at the back. Rolling the shoulders round. Okay, mid-spine is open. Shoulders are open. We bring awareness into the elbows. So now the elbows rise at the front. Release at the sides. The shoulders are still rolling, but the elbows rise at the front. Release at the sides. Once more. Elbows up, out, and down. And then we bring the wrists into play, so the elbows rise and the wrists rise. Open to the sides. Relax. Up front. Release out to the sides. Follow the breath. In-breath rising. Out-breath releasing. Couple more times round. Always creating space, relaxing and opening. Then the next time we breathe in and the hands rise to the top, they pause briefly at the top. And the out-breath sinks down the front of the body. The in-breath rises at the sides. Release down the front. Breathe in up the sides. Couple more seconds. And then the next time the hands draw down to lower dantian, allow them to pause at lower dantian. Okay, release the hands to the sides, and then we're going to circle the weight around the bottom of the feet. So just gently shifting the weight around the bottom of the feet. Relaxing the feet, softening the feet. Soften the ankles. Notice how easily the ankles move. Notice how easily the knees move. Notice how soft the hips are. The whole body relax. The whole body soften. A few more times, body circling gently. Whole body relax. And then coming into a central position and raising the hands up so the palms are facing down. And we push down on the out breath, down into the earth. And gather back on the in-breath into lower dantian. Expand out. And gather back. This idea of chi flowing well through the legs, the chi legs, relaxed and effortless. And then the next time the hands come back in front of lower dantian, allow them to pause briefly. And then rise up as if connecting up through the space between the vertebra and the spine, all the way up into blue sky. Then draw blue sky down into lower dantian. Connect up. And gather down. Up. And down. Once more, connecting up through all the space in the spine. And gather down. Pausing at lower dantian when you get there. And then gently open elbows, open wrists, open arms. Relax out in all directions. Bring the mind back. Release out in all directions. Bring the mind home. One last time, expanding out, releasing, relaxing. Draw chi back. Notice the space inside. The ease of the breath. The space between thoughts. Expand the awareness out slightly, out into the chi body, out into the space immediately around you. Then expand out further into this group. Everyone connected. Everyone supported. Everyone supporting this chi field, this connection. And then from here we can allow the awareness to expand out further, out into blue sky, out into Hunyuanchi. Everything connected. Everything supported. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Draw chi back. With two ideas today. One is chi flowing well through the whole body, and the other one is very relaxed. When the body relaxes, the mind can be quiet. Relaxed and quiet. Release the hands to the sides. And we'll start with turning the thumbs. So turn both thumbs forwards, gently open front of body. Turn both thumbs back. Gently open the shoulder blades, open the spine. Open front. Open back. Front. And back. Then start to make movements slightly bigger each time. Hands rise a little bit further, thumbs turn a little bit further. When they turn back, body bows down a little bit further. Gradually increasing the size of the movement. Starting to coordinate the movement with the breath. So rising hands is in-breath. Bowing down is out-breath. Breathing in and rising up. Breathing out, sinking down. Moving between the two. Allowing the movement to correspond with the breath. So the movement is all about opening space. It's all about opening up the spine, mobilizing the body. It's not stretching, it's relaxing and opening. You can increase the size of the movement, as big as is comfortable. So here we're working Renmai and Dumai, the two central channels. Opening up the front, opening up the back. And as you open Renmai and Dumai, it affects all of the rest of the body. So all the way from the tips of the fingers to the ends of the toes. Creating space for Qi to flow well. A few more times. And then the next time the hands get to the top, allow them to pause at the top and allow the whole body to move freely. Like a reed in the river, moving gently, opening front and back. Hands connecting up into blue sky. And then gently draw Qi down. Bring the focus down into the top of the spine. Down through the neck. Between each vertebra of the neck. Into the mid-spine, down through the mid-spine. Into the lumbar and down through the lumbar. All the way down to the tip of the tailbone. Back to the hips. Down through the legs. Notice the knees. Notice the ankles, all the bones in the feet, and at the bottom, lift Qi up. And draw Qi down. To the top of the neck and down through all of the marrow, bright and healthy. Down through the whole of the spine. Spacious and Qi flowing well, down to the tip of the tailbone. Back to the hips, down through the legs. Lift Qi up. A few more times in your own time. Draw Qi down. Through the space between the vertebrae, through the marrow, through the legs. Once more, all the way around. And then the next time the hands get up to the top, allow them to pause at the top. Whole of the body moving freely. And we'll draw the feet a little closer together. So we have a single column of chi connecting up, connecting down. And then we'll bow the body down. So gently rolling the body forwards as far as is comfortable. Now turn side on. So if you only get as far as here, that's fine. If you go lower, that's fine. Keep the legs straight. And the idea is the in-breath rises up through the legs, out through the spine and the arms. And we press the forehead down towards the knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Body turns to the left. Forehead towards the knees. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me. Body to the right. Press down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then body to the front, hands behind the legs. You draw the forehead towards the knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Release the hands forwards and allow the body to hang. And then sink the tailbone down, straighten the spine up. Coming all the way back up, arms rising up into blue sky and moving freely. Hands connecting up into blue sky. Gently draw chi down. Upper dantian. Middle dantian. Lower dantian. Out to the hips and down through the legs. And at the bottom, lift chi up. And draw chi down through the whole body, focusing briefly into upper dantian, then middle dantian, then lower dantian. Down through the legs, into the earth. Once more, lift chi up. Draw chi down. Upper dantian, middle dantian, pausing at lower dantian. Okay, so we've opened the spine, we've opened the body, we've helped to relax the body, so now we'll move chi. We'll open the posture. And we'll come into some Tai Chi ball. So to get the whole body moving, allow one hand to reach out as if gathering chi and draw chi back into lower dantian. Then the other hand reaches out and gathers and draws back. This isn't about physical accuracy. This is simply an idea of gathering blue sky back inside and allow the whole body to move. So we can shift the weight from one side to the other. We can turn the spine, we can release the shoulders, we can allow everything to flow freely. Movement is all about flow. It's all about ease and mobilization. Qi flowing well everywhere. And then we'll start to reduce the size of the movement, gradually reducing it back. And then allow both hands to move at the same time. So both hands spiral out and gather and draw back in. And as they do, squat down slightly. Gather into lower dantian. Spiral out, lift Bahui, lift the crown. Gather back, sink Hui Lu, sink the tailbone down. Gather in. Spiral out. Gather in, out, and in. You can adapt this movement. So if you point the toes out and you sink down slightly, you can use this to help to open the hips. So you can make all kinds of changes here, just to help Qi flow more freely through the body, whatever works for you today. I'm going to straighten my feet up again. And then the next time the hands draw in, they're both going to rise up, they're both going to spiral up through the body, all the way up into blue sky. Then the thumbs draw forwards, and the hands spiral out into the far distance. And they spiral back in front of lower dantian, the body squats down slightly, and then we have this idea of Qi rising. Mind spirals out, draws Qi back, rises through the body. Out and back. Rising, out, and back. A few more times, in your own time. Just enjoying the freedom of Qi flowing well around the whole body. So this is like a complicated version of La Qi, where we're expanding out, spiraling out, gathering back. La Qi is just in and out, whereas here we go out, out, and in. Out, out, and in. Once more. Out, out, and in. Spiraling all the way up to the top and pausing at the top. And then gently draw Qi down. Down through the body, upper dantian, middle dantian, lower dantian. At the bottom, little fingers push back and spiral out and up. Draw Qi down. Out and up. Draw Qi down. A few more times. Enjoy. Next time the hands get to the top, allow the hands to pause. Connect it up into blue sky. And then draw feet together. Continue, draw Qi down. Down to lower dantian. Then the hands spiral out and up. Draw Qi down. More and more subtle. Quieter and quieter. Draw Qi down. Then the next time the hands get down to lower dantian, not this time, but the next time, allow the hands to pause at lower dantian. So we've mobilized the body, we've opened up the space in the body. And then the hands can settle facing lower dantian, facing the space in front of the small of the back. And then connecting into the whole body from here. We're going to use La Qi for a little while before coming into Rofu. So La Qi, open the elbows, open the wrists, open the arms, expanding out in all directions. And then gather back in from all directions. So squat down slightly. This is a bit like, I described as a Gollum moment. It's like it's going, it's mine, it's precious. And then here we expand out in all directions. Out into blue sky, and then draw blue sky back inside. Refresh, full of blue sky. So expanding out. And gathering back. Eyes expand out. Is gather back. Few more times. And mind drawing back, drawing blue sky back into lower dantian, pausing at lower dantian, centered and quiet. So here we're aiming for this very relaxed, very quiet state. Then we can draw the hands back onto lower dantian, back onto Duchi. So one hand on top of the other, on top of the navel. And here we'll come into Rofu. So for Rofu, we would normally push the hands to the left slightly, and they go up the left-hand side, across the top and down the right. So making contact with the skin, quite small circles, travelling around. So up the left and down the right. Up the left, down the right. Continue. Okay, so travelling in this direction, up the left and down the right. There's two ideas that we can play with. One is that this is a disruptor. It's going against the direction of digestion. So what it's doing is it's allowing the body just to flush out all the stagnant qi in the intestines. That's one idea we can work with. Another one is that this was a screw thread and we were winding it in this direction. This would be winding out from the body. So maybe this is just a really slow way to do the expand out of La Qi. Either way, notice how it feels for you. A few more times in this direction. And then coming back to the center. And then changing direction. So now the hands move to the right and they go up on the right hand side, down on the left hand side. So this is the same direction as peristalsis. This is easing the digestive tract. But similarly, if this was a screw thread, it'd be winding the qi back in. There's all kinds of other ideas we can work with here. But the focus is into lower dantian, winding qi back into lower dantian. So when the mind is busy, when the mind has wandered off, this practice draws the mind back into lower dantian. Relaxes the body. Couple more times round. And then allow the hands to rest on lower dantian. Allow the mind to rest in lower dantian. Take a few breaths here. Enjoy. Relax. Then release the hands to the sides and gently ease out. The whole body relaxed. Come back into movement. And we'll finish this with a joyful howler and then we'll have a chat. So raising the hands up. And 1, 2, howler. Everybody's muted, so I've got no idea how much glorious sound is being made. We'll do one more. 1, 2, howler. Thank you, everyone. Let's come and have a chat.
I love that howler. It's great.
There was a lovely moment, about 3 weeks ago. We were in the morning session and we were having a conversation after the morning session. And there was one of the ladies who was asked what words stuck out for her as being prominent words during lockdown. And she said, it's howler. It's the thing going every morning. So, yeah. So we did some opening, we did some lachi, and then we had a play with the rofu. And rofu is the practice that we would typically use for insomnia. So are there any questions? Is there anything anybody would like to find out about or anything coming up? Yes, go on.
I've got one. When I'm looking online, John, there's 3 levels of this form of Qigong.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas you take a couple and work really well at them. I was working through level 1, you know, and it's very precise, you know, everything has to be 30 degrees or 45 degrees and all this sort of stuff. How do you find that compared to what you do, which is much more free? And
I'd like to say, oh, just what I do is better.
yeah.
But no, not
It's easier. Yeah.
Different people have different approaches. There's actually 6 levels of Zhineng Qigong.
Oh.
But you will only find the first 3 being spoken. The first 3 will take you to the same place, and the place that they take you to is considered to be enlightenment. And the levels 4, 5, and 6 then work with the enlightened state. So as a result, the first 3 tend to have quite a lot of physicality in them, and the subsequent 3 have less physicality in them. It raises the question for me about where does physicality sit or where does accuracy sit? And for me, it's really, really important. But it's really important when you're teaching to be physically accurate because people will copy you. And if you're going deeply into the practice, then there's details that we can look at physically that will ask deeper questions of you. But if what you're doing is you're focusing on, I need to make sure that when I push out with Shen Men, and when I draw back through Lao Gong, and that the shoulders are doing this, and you know everything's only opening this far and closing that. You're not doing Qigong, you're doing choreography.
Yeah.
You've got to get over that bit of learning before you get the benefit. Whereas the way that I work with it is that I believe everyone can get the benefit from the moment they interact with it. We haven't got to learn the rules. We can adapt we can adapt this accuracy in at a certain point, and then start to really get the benefit of it. So yeah, I'm not against accuracy, but I believe it's not the first stage.
Yeah.
So
It's knowing why you're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, to me, I'll always remember going back about 10 years. I was doing some work in a local school, and we'd been asked to take some work we've been doing with a big corporate in the UK into this school, and it was about communication skills. And I was using a little bit of animal-based work, as in animal form Qigong. And there was a guy there, and I can't remember what his diagnosis was, but he had a very obvious physical disability. He had a real lack of movement. And so we got to the session that I was doing, and he said, you know, I can't do this. And I said, no, of course you can do it. You just do it with your own movement. That's the most important thing. And in fairness, he struggled with it. And then he had to stand up afterwards and do a talk, which was part of this sort of program that we did. And when he spoke, I'd never seen anybody as a 14-year-old lad who had such immense awareness of his physicality and the way he could use his physicality. He was absolutely incredible. You know, I'd been studying Qigong sort of 15 years at that point, and I had nowhere near the depth of understanding of how my body worked compared to where he was. At which point I went, what's the point of being physically accurate when actually the learning comes from that deep awareness? It has its place, but it isn't the be all and end all. So I'll climb off that soapbox.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate the fact that it doesn't have to be perfect to work, because certainly,
So do I, Doreen.
yeah, far from perfect, and it feels good.
Yeah, that's what matters. If it's working for you, it's working for you. So yeah.
I find that my Pilates lady is very stuck on accuracy, and I'm finding it irritating because it seems to get in the way. There's she's always correcting us instead of getting on with maybe something deeper.
Yeah, it's always a fine line. I mean, I've worked with some Qigong teachers who are, you know, you have to get this bit 100% right before they will teach you the next bit.
Oh.
And there is great power in that. But to say, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. And so I work with the people that make sense to you to work with is the way that I would view it. You know, one of my favorite postures is the Chenbi posture, which is literally just this, with the hands up at 90 degrees, the feet together, and holding that posture. And we never give any instruction on the accuracy of it.
Yeah.
But the fact that we hold it for up to an hour at a time,
Well,
that you have to become accurate. You have to learn how your body works in that state. And I'm always minded, a very good friend of mine by the name of Dubravko Lepane. He's a Croatian guy who's reputedly one of the top didgeridoo players in the world. And he speaks about when he first started practicing didge, he could practice for about 15 minutes. Then he had a break. And then he decided to go from 15 minutes to an hour. So he practiced for an hour. And he had to learn new skills so he could practice for an hour. Then he moved to 2 hours. And as he moved to 2 hours, he had to get the skill of practicing the didge to be more effortless. Then from 2 hours to 4 hours, 4 hours to 6, and then 6 hours. Eventually he was practicing 8 hours a day. By the time he got to 8 hours a day, he had to have learned how his body works in connection with this thing so that he could work effortlessly with it. But he didn't learn the technique from a book. He learned the technique by understanding what worked for him.
What's the benefit of standing in that position for long periods of time?
It's just funny to watch people suffer. No, it's
thank you very much.
Now, in fairness, this particular posture it serves a couple of purposes. The first is that it's not physically possible to do it. You've got to find a way of doing it which isn't about holding the body up with the muscles.
Yeah.
You've got to relax into it. And the idea of being able to be in a posture like this and be relaxed is easy to talk about, but you've got to spend time with it in order to really do it. And the other thing that's interesting in this is that we work quite a lot on the emotions. So any response that we get is an interesting response. So if we feel any emotion, it's because there's something that we consider to be important. So if we feel immense amounts of happiness, it's because there's something underlying it that we consider to be important. If we feel immense amounts of frustration, there's something there that we feel is important. You can imagine that standing like this for an hour is an emotional experience. And I'm not talking Vinnie Jones in Lock, Stock, it's been emotional type of thing. It's, you know, this will raise stuff for you. And so we'll use those types of forms in order to go more deeply and explore what's going on for us. But that is sort of full-on retreat work, working out in China. So that isn't the type of stuff that we'd do in an everyday class. Mainly because we like people coming to Qigong classes. Everyone leaves if you do that.
That excludes a lot of people, doesn't it? If you're aiming for precision all the time. So as people get older, they might not be able to do it, or less able-bodied, or it really is. I mean, precision to ensure people don't hurt anything. So you know, you're not damaging things because you're doing things in an incorrect way. But other than that, I don't know. Quite.
Yeah. Well, one of the teachers we work with in China, he starts all of his sessions with 15 minutes of Qian-Bi, and Qian-Bi is, okay, hands out here, and it's this movement, drawing the shoulder blades together and 15 minutes of that in the session. And
I did a Qigong class with another teacher just very briefly, and she was doing that, and I found that incredibly difficult to do. It gave me terrible pain in my shoulders. So I was doing it for 10 minutes, and it was just agony at the end. I gave up.
That's exactly why this teacher does it. That's exactly why this Chinese teacher does it, because he only wants to work with people who are willing to go through it.
Oh, God.
And just going, okay, fair enough. But, you know, if there's sort of another Qigong teacher around who can work with the people who really struggle with it, that's a fair thing to do. But again, you know, it doesn't make so much sense to me.
Sounds like he has commitment issues.
Yes, that's it. Well, I mean, if you look at the traditions in China, one of my first teachers was a Tibetan Buddhist, and they had to sit outside the monastery. As a boy of 9 years old, he was made to sit outside the monastery for a really long period of time before they'd let him in and admit him. And the way he explains it is that when it's sort of a cultural thing, you need to prove your devotion to the practice. You need to show that you're willing to do it. And you're not just doing it because your mum sent you down the road to do it. Whereas when we take these types of practices in a Western environment, I think that the fact that people are willing to come along and try it shows significantly more commitment to it. So I don't feel it's so necessary.
Well, and what you had said before is you don't necessarily have to have the movements technically accurate, but if internally you're doing what you need to do, that's what makes the difference. That's what matters.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what's important. Okay. I'm aware of the time, and we used a little bit of Rofu, and we were having this thing about sleep. So the Rofu practice, so I'm going to just draw the camera down a little bit so that we can actually see it a little bit more clearly. So in the Rofu practice, when we're here, we can actually do this lying down. And we haven't got to worry about the imagery that I used. The thing that's clever about this is that if you use this lying down and you're counting circles, you're drawing your awareness out of here, which is keeping you awake, and down into here and allowing the body to relax, which helps you sleep. I would always suggest counting in 50s. And I would also suggest that some people find that using the disruptive cycle up the left and down the right first, and then moving to the balancing cycle up the right and down the left is useful. Other people just prefer to go with the balancing cycle. We could have a long in-depth conversation about what the benefits of each approach are. Bottom line is exactly what Doreen has just said. Do what works for you. So when you find you're awake at night, putting the hands on the belly, giving it a reasonable amount of pressure, because the physical contact is important here, because that helps to guide the mind, and then rotating the hands. And if you start with 50 in each direction, there's a story of one of my teachers insisting that you have to do it 300 times in each direction. Yeah, that was, yeah, it's a slightly long involved piece, but it's always worth counting. You know, don't go, oh, 3, that's enough, right, I'll go to sleep now. Keep going. And you'll find that it makes a big difference. It does get good results. So hopefully that will be useful. So please give it a go and report back next week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else going on for people at the moment?
Now, you've talked about visualizing an area if you want to work on that area, whether it's a shoulder, a hip, a knee, or I've been working on a shoulder issue that's been extremely painful, and I realized yesterday it's completely gone.
Hola. Brilliant. I love the fact you said you realized it's completely gone, because that's so the way it works. Just one day you go, heck on a second,
Right.
it's not there anymore.
Right. Yep. I did something and it didn't hurt, and it's gone. Let's hope it doesn't come back. I don't think it will.
No, there's no reason why it should. So
Right.
yeah. Wonderful. Can I ask how you worked with it? Did you use a particular movement or a particular form?
When we were working in class, when you were talking about bringing blue sky in and drawing chi down, I would just focus specifically on that area more than any place else.
Mm-hmm.
And to envision that it was healed and that it was healthy and that it was fine. And that is easy as that.
Wonderful. Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear.
It's great to have too.
Well, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
The nature of Parkinson's is it's so fluctuating and so unpredictable.
Right.
Difficult to know, isn't it? What's part of Parkinson's, what's part of an injury, what's part of a one-off thing, and
Oh, yes.
is it brain chemistry?
Go and
You know, I just don't know the answer, so I don't know what to apply to particular situations. Just keep on doing the same and see what happens. I think that's all I feel I can do.
Yeah, I'd say that it's better not to draw the distinction. It would be better overall to, if you've got an area that's causing problems, work into that area and don't overanalyze it too much, because the analysis maintains the issue.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can simply allow it to relax, let go and transform, it will resolve a lot more quickly. It's not always quite as easy as that, obviously. With the approach that we have with Western medicine, we are focusing into details, and it can be really useful to know, especially in relation to any sort of prescription drugs that you're taking around this, any meds that you're taking, any other things. It can be good to know what's working on what, so that you've got a good idea of where you want to go. But overall, I'd say the rule is work without too much analysis of the symptom, and you'll find that it will tend to go more quickly.
It's just labeling something, isn't it? And I think, like you said, in the medical profession, some will say, oh, that's musculoskeletal, it's not Parkinson's, you need to see somebody else. So they sort of pass the buck, don't they? And you're stuck here, you don't know yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was having a conversation with my mum yesterday. My mum's 87, and she'd been to the podiatrist because she'd had some issues with her toes, and the podiatrist had said it's the arthritis. And so when I spoke to her, I said, how did you get on at the podiatrist? She said, oh, she told me that it's Arthur back. and she's given arthritis the name of Arthur, and she's she's just completely accepting of it. And you're going, okay, well, that's the way you want to be, and that isn't an issue. But at the same time, if you don't want something, don't even name it. So yeah. But again, easier said than done because of the culture that we live in and the way that we work.
Yeah.
So okay.
But I'm going to
Thank
have
you,
to
John.
go. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Take care,
Take care.
everyone.
Ta, Agnes.
Bye then.
Bye. Bye.
Right.
Bye, Rachel.
I will draw to a close there. So thank you, everybody, and see you next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, Doreen.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah.